So, as the title suggests, you guys have changed my mind. Now, you may be wondering what the hell I'm on about. Well, a couple of episodes ago, I said this. I'm not going to bother stitch welding the car, which may upset a few of you folk. Now, on reflection, I had thought, you know what, guys, you're probably right. So the Achilles heel of a Vauxhall Nova is the crossmember. Now, we do sometimes crack in other places from putting big engines in, like, for example, here on Liam's car. However, that was because the car was rotten. Yeah, this isn't rotten. So what we're going to do, we're just going to reinforce the crossmember because that does get tugged around quite a lot. And the way we're going to do it is basically just stitch weld it like we have done previously. It's tried and tested and it works really well. So we're just going to go around all the joints, do an inch stitch, inch break, inch stitch with the welder, and it's just going to make it that bit stronger. And then I'll repaint this. But before I do that, I want to tackle this. So this bit of chassis leg, as you guys probably will know, is going to be in the way of the alternator on the 2-litre 16-valve engine. So there's a few ways around it. I've said this previously. You can dint it in with a hammer, you can cut it out. This episode, I'm going to do something slightly different, and I'm going to cut this side, bend it in, and just fill the gap in. So essentially, it's going to taper in slightly, rather than cut a big box out. I just want to do it a little bit differently. Because this is going to have throttle bodies, you will see down here, so you just want to cover it up a little bit. So out comes the trusty grinder with the 1mm cutting disc, and I'm going to start cutting this shell up. Wish me luck. I marked the area I wanted to cut first with a Sharpie. I then took my time with a cutting disc to ensure it was a surgical-like incision. Once cut, I started shaping the panel with a small hammer, carefully tapping it into place. The chassis legs on these cars are surprisingly thick, but my patience pays off. Once I'm happy with the overall curve of the panel, I start folding in the other ends to join it. I can honestly say I've never felt so bad about cutting up such a clean shell. It's sacrilege, really. However, it's going to be amazing once it's done. Right, guys, it's time to start welding. I weld the panel up using my trusty MIG welder. If you want to know more about the welding setup, then just comment below. So as you can see, this is kind of tacked all the way around, pretty much. I'm going to grind it back and obviously just go over it again in places. I've just cut this bit of metal out, which is going to go here, weld in, and then that's going to be that filled. And then I can obviously weld it all up properly, grind it back, give it a little bit of filler maybe, and then paint it so you can't tell, hopefully. No fucking way. Well, that didn't go very well. It just fell down a hole, and now it's in the bottom of the chassis leg. So, yeah, not great if I'm honest. Right, I'm never going to get that back out of there, so I'm just going to make another one and stop messing about. Right, round two. Voila, I'm going to hold it with a magnet this time. I haven't cleaned it up just in case I drop it again. Carl, I hope your car doesn't rattle afterwards. Again, I tack it into place, then seam weld it up. My welds are never the prettiest, but they're strong enough, which is the main thing. To combat that, I always dress them with a selection of abrasives. I tend to start with a grinding disc, then a flat disc, and then of course a sandpaper to finish. And there we go, guys, not too shabby, and as you can see, it just cuts in nicely there. So what I'm going to do, I've just sanded it down a little bit. I'm going to give it a little bit of extra primer, and I'm going to reseal the edges with seam sealer, round all the welds, and obviously I'll flat all this back and paint it white again. Hopefully get a comparable finish. I don't think it's going to be as good, but I'll try my best. And there we go, a bit of extra primer. I'm going to call it a night, but this won't be the end of the video. So it's been a couple of days since I last did some filming, but I have been busy, so I have stitch welded the crossmember. I've done it off camera purely for the fact that in previous videos we've covered this in depth, so I didn't feel like I needed to do it again, basically. So this has been stitch welded, I've sealed it, and I've stone chipped it. I've also just started prepping the engine bay. Obviously, I'm going to paint all this area here. I'm going to paint the crossmember. I'm not going to paint the other side because I haven't done it. I've used soft edge masking tape here, which is like a foam tape with a sticky back on it. So it leaves a nice soft edge, no sharp lines when you demask. So the next job is to remove the front bumper, which I'm going to show you exactly how to do now. So, being an original car, you've got 2 bolts here. They're 13mm bolts, and then there's 1 bolt behind the bumper here on the corner, which is a 10mm bolt. 1 10mm Acme bolt, so these are basically like a big self-tapper. And 1 8mm 13mm headed bolt, which holds the bumper iron on. 1 more to remove. I can't get this gun in. It's also got plastic clips across the bottom. Now, most Novas don't have these. Obviously, someone's put this back together properly. So you just push the centre of these clips through and then they just pull out. Nice and easy. So that's the clip. And the pin just pushes through the centre of that and then pushes the little tabs out. Like a raw plug, I suppose. Now I just need to repeat the process on this side and the bumper can come off. Right, now the bumper's off, I think the best thing to do is start masking the car up properly and then we can get some paint on it. Masking is one of them jobs, the more time you put in, the better the end results. I always try and strip the car as much as possible to avoid masking, but as this is only the chassis leg and the crossmember, which you won't really see, we're doing a more localised repair. I did notice the paint had blisters on the front panel from welding the crossmember, so I quickly dressed this back. The original plan wasn't to paint the front, but if I left it like this, it would go rusty pretty quick. Once the area is dressed, I give the rest of the panel a key with some grey Scotch-Brite. As you can see, I've just noticed a couple of bad bits on the crossmember, basically from where I welded the other side. Paint's blistered, so I've just ground it back a little bit, flattened off. I'm just going to stone chip this front piece as well, and I'll blow it all in, and it's going to look pretty good. Bearing in mind, you're not going to see any of this. I'm just doing it for protection, really. Before I stone chip the panel, I apply a couple of coats of extra primer to the bare metal. I dry this off with a heat gun and use U-Pole Guard as a stone chip. This is basically an aerosol version of Gravitex, performs just as well in my opinion, especially with the larger red nozzle. I mist this into the edges so there's no obvious masking line afterwards. Now I'm going to let it dry for a couple of hours with the heater in front of it, and I can come back, continue masking and get some paint on it. As always, I'm using cheap masking plastic sheet. It's static, so it sticks to the car, making it much easier to apply. I cover the whole car and then simply cut out the bit I want to paint afterwards and mask around them. The key to this is to mask the exact edges, etc. before you do this stage. That way you can just apply tape roughly over the top of the previous tape, meaning you don't have to be so careful with your lines. I hope that makes sense. Right, we're all masked, as you can see. Stone chip's gone off, so we're going to mix some paint and put some on. So we've got 1 clean mixing cup, brand new. We've got half a litre of 10L Glacier White. This is 2K paint, so it needs mixing 2 to 1. So 2 parts paint to 1 part thinner. So we don't need loads, I don't think. What should I mix? Probably going to go for 150ml of paint, 75ml of hardener, and then 10% thinners. 150ml. As you can see, we've got exactly 150ml. So now I need to get it to 225. 220. That's 220. Beautiful. Then we want 10% of thinners, which is going to take it to about 250. Might go slightly over. Makes it a bit runnier. Easier to get a good shine. There you go, beautiful. I'll use my trusty stirring stick. And there we go. A bit of panel white. Ensure it's nice and clean. Right, gun's been cleaned out. I put a filter in the top. I pour the paint in. And away we go. I always do a test spray on a masked area first. This way you know the gun is set up okay
and you've also removed any remaining gun wash from the gun. I've gone straight on in the past and covered the panel with fish eyes from the gun being slightly contaminated with washing thinners. Give the whole area a light coat of paint followed by 2 or 3 heavier ones. The lighter coat will act as a tack coat and hold the other layers with less risk of runs. Give it a couple of minutes between each coat for best results.
And there we go, guys. It's had 2 or 3 coats and it's done. Paint looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. So, I think we're going to wrap the video up there. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for next week where hopefully we'll start putting the engine in. See you later. Bye-bye.